Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the world. I'm your host, Jeff Dawson of East Coast Sports Investors, and this is the Midday Market Report. It's that time of the week, our Canadian football report from the one, the only, Mr. Andrew Mcinnis at Wager Talk at Mcinnis Picks, and a lot more. What is up, Andrew? How are you today?
What's up, Jeff? Doing great. How are you doing?
We're doing great here as well. It seems to be picking up that time of year.
And happy
And
Friday.
Friday's here, the weekend's here. Week 3, I guess you would say, technically in the Canadian Football League.
For sure.
What I want to do basically today is to start, if you can go back to last weekend, the highlights, the lowlights, what transpired, and how it all affected yourself in the wagering end of the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, we'll take a look at some of the scores for last week. So, again, I'll start with a team that I gave out on this show. We're going to talk about them again because they played last night. But the Edmonton Elks, they fall to the Red Blacks last week. We saw the Lions, of course. We talked about that one already in last week's show, 15-9 over the Stampeders. The Blue Bombers and the Argos, 20-7 in favor of the Bombers. You know, that was a strong play for me. I had the Bombers in the first half, minus 3.5. I just thought that I would take them, out the gate. Didn't kind of want to avoid that big spread, as you see, as so many dogs are covering right now. And but the Alouettes, that was the Red Blacks in the first week, but the Alouettes. 30 points for them in their opening week, Jeff. That to me was kind of interesting because we saw a lot of teams struggle with rust out the gate. And I kind of wondered if we would see some rust or if we would see, like the extra week of training camp would really help this Alouettes team. And the angle that I took was obviously the wrong one because they had 30 points. And then the Tiger Cats, they are not looking good to start the season off. Their offensive line is in shambles. Quarterback is running around. And now you have the entire media wondering if it should be Dane Evans behind center or it should remain Jeremiah Masoli. And he's not really making that choice too easy for his head coach, not really giving him too many reasons to to keep him out there. But when the offensive line is not playing so well, it's kind of tough for them to make decisions like that. So as for me, it was a slightly winning week. I think I threw away a little bit with an overplay on the Riders and the Ticats to close out the week, so that was kind of disappointing. I just 30 points from the Riders, they did their job right, and then 8 points from the Ticats. So we've still only seen one over in the CFL. It's unbelievable. Yesterday, I wish I released it to my guys. I just did a little free play video on the under, and I had the Elks at plus 3.5. They won outright, so it was my third straight week backing the Elks, and that was kind of my tipping point. Jeff saying like, "All right, this is the last straw for you guys. If you don't get it done for me, you're in the doghouse." And what's the old-fashioned saying people always say? Bet numbers, not teams. And I know the Elks hadn't looked great for the first 2 weeks, at least what the scoreboard read. But if you're going to give me 3.5 points for them against what I thought was an overrated Lions team, then I would take that all day long. But I'll tell you what, I know you're an NFL guy as well. I wish I just was taking every single under in both the NFL and CFL, and you and I would be, in the Bahamas right now.
I like to say we'd never leave the presidential suite at the Bellagio. How's that sound?
Yeah. Unders galore right now, it seems like.
It is amazing. We were talking earlier today with Dave Sharapan, and we were talking just in the last 2 weeks what the MLB favorites have been. It just at a plus 72 or 73%. It's just been amazing where now they've kind of priced this out. I think today, if there's a 15-card slate, there's only 4 games that aren't 200 or more favorites. So they're getting hip to that part. And for yourself and myself in the Canadian Football League, it's going to be the same way in the NFL in a couple weeks. The public and the degens of the world are going to be betting the favorites and the over, and Vegas already knows that. Okay, so some of these prices are inflated. You talked about the logos and the names on the back, and that's what these people are following. Whereas people like ourselves, we're following the numbers. We're actually studying the market, so we might be able to find some values in these numbers, Andrew.
Absolutely. And yesterday's game is a perfect example of that. You take a look at the BC Lions. I ripped them apart to you last week on our show together, and I'll do it again pretty much. I didn't want to tweet out this type of stuff last night because I didn't want to come across as a poor winner. But the fact of the matter was the BC Lions were overrated in just 2 weeks, big time. They got blown out in week 1 in the first half against Saskatchewan. And then pretty much Saskatchewan played sloppy defense, prevent defense for like the entire second half. And so BC were able to put up some points. So if you're just the kind of guy that checks scores, you might think that game was a hell of a lot closer than it actually was. But if you didn't know they were down, 20 some points at halftime, you might think that it was a competitive game the whole way through. Then last week, Bo Levi Mitchell throws 4 interceptions and they win something along the lines of like 18-7. So, if I told you a team won like 18-7 and the losing quarterback threw 4 picks, it's not really that impressive of a win for the team that won. It's just a win, So to me, those 2 games that they've played in so far didn't really add up for them to deserve to be -3.5 favorites over the Elks.
I'm going to bring up the standings if we can right now for you. Let's see if this pops for us. Hopefully, God willing. All right.
There we go.
So first 3 weeks, we're coming into week 3. Here it is. Impressions. I know already some slow starts, some guys getting out of the gates. Go back to preseason. The thoughts and to where we are today. What's really sticking out for you, Andrew?
I'll start with the Western Division. I keep on harping about Mitchell, quarterback for Calgary, but he's actually been out with a broken fibula now. So they didn't think it was that bad. I didn't really see anything major happen last week, but kind of crazy to believe a guy was kind of playing through stuff like that. I don't know how you really play through a broken leg. But that seems to be the case, or maybe it was in practice or something like that. But I think he tweaked it and then re-injured it later on. But anyway, so the Stamps find themselves in the bottom of the Western Division. And, they literally were going to go with Michael O'Connor, the Canadian backup quarterback. And they're going to go with the third string, true rookie out of UC Davis. And I think his name is Jake Meyer. I believe that's his last name. And so it's interesting to see what they do. The Stamps have not looked good. One thing about them I'd say is I'd probably keep them in your underbook because right now they're not scoring too much, but they also aren't allowing too many points. Look, I've been impressed with this Rough Riders team. I was kind of one person that said, look, their defense is going to be really good, but I'm worried about their offense. And right now, that's true. That's proven not to be true. Throughout the first 2 weeks, they have definitely shown what they can do. They definitely, have in their first game against the Ticats, winning 30-8. That's just that's a statement game. They're supposed to be 2 of the best teams in their own divisions. So I look at that. Then the Blue Bombers, they're a team that just they're steady run game, steady short passes. We haven't seen Zach Collaros lose a game, Jeff, since he's become a member of the Bombers. That's what's crazy. Dating back to last season, this guy hasn't lost 1 game as a member of the Bombers franchise. So, the Lions and the Stamps at the bottom, Riders and the Bombers up top, and then we kind of just have the Elks somewhere in the middle, and we'll see where they kind of move. Because like I said, they're a team I still have some confidence in. As far as the East Division goes, the Alouettes really, really impressed me. The Tiger Cats, it's going to be a huge test to see what they can do coming off their bye week. You couldn't ask for a better time for them to get a bye because they need it. They need to figure it out. They need to figure it out offensively, maybe even defensively as well. But I'm going to circle the 2 teams below the Alouettes because the Red Blacks and the Argos are going to be super interesting to watch this weekend. We'll talk about those games. I think that when you look at this Red Blacks team, they won outright in their first game, against the Elks, which nobody in their right mind thought that was going to happen. But that was off 3 interceptions from Trevor Harris. I don't even think Matt Nichols passed 100 yards passing. It was the defense that really stepped up for the Red Blacks. So I'm really curious to see what they can do, over the next couple of games. They have a huge test this weekend. And then the Argos. Something that happens quite a bit, Jeff, in the CFL that, of course, you wouldn't see in the NFL or college or any other league. They do home and homes quite a bit. So this week we have, like you probably know already, of course, the Argos and the Bombers playing again for the second time in 2 weeks. So this game will tell us a lot about the Argos. It's their first game back at home after playing on the road to start the season. I'm curious to see what they can do against the Bombers at home. But so far, it's shaping up to be a pretty competitive league. The Riders, out of every team, look the most consistent. We've only seen the Alouettes play 1 game, so I look forward to seeing them tonight.
All right, we're going to pull this up here. I'm going to go to the screen that hopefully will take us to the promised land this weekend here. So let's see if we can do it here, my brother.
All right.
Stop that. Remove. All right, I'm going to go here instead. We're going to talk about tonight's game. Let's pull that up for you. I'm going to use your boys here at wagertalk.com.
Love it.
And actually, I got that on spread. So Moneyline, that won't help you to start. Spreads, there we go. All right, so we're showing here tonight. Rotation number 673, 674, Montreal at Calgary. I had an opening line of 3, currently at 4 all across the Vegas Strip. What are you seeing in tonight's action?
Would you mind if we focus on the total for this game, Jeff? Would that be all right with you?
Yep. You want the under-over?
Yeah, let's take a look at that for tonight because I think it's actually quite interesting. Especially in the first half, I'm looking at it, but also just the full game. This is a low total. I know people that I've spoken to in the CFL world that have literally just said they can't take a CFL under. At this number. It's just you don't see a number open up at what it has and continue to drop. And that says a lot about Calgary. It says a real lot about Calgary and what they expect of them. I think it's about them being conservative with their backup quarterback. I think it's about them, having an okay time on defense to start the year off, but their offensive game plan hasn't really been too great. I think all the Calgary players and head coach Dickinson knows what this game means to them for this season. Similarly to what we saw from the Elks last night, even though it's only week 3, I'd say for me, week 3 and week 4 are kind of where I start making my changes, which is why I was sort of joking and sort of serious about it being my last straw with the Elks yesterday. If I'm a Calgary bettor and a Calgary fan, this is a real important game, and you kind of want to see how they can battle it. But from a total standpoint, we're sitting here seeing 43.5s and 44s. This is going to be an interesting one to look at because if Montreal can even get 28 points, I think Calgary can get up there as well and compete and put some points on the board. This is a super low total in the CFL. And it's like we said off the top, numbers change. We watch the numbers. We follow the markets. We don't just focus on these teams. And I think if you looked at this game as a whole, a lot of sharp bettors might want to try and keep following the trend is your friend mindset. But with me, I think they're handing just too low of a number here. And there still are some talented receivers for Calgary. I do have a best bet side up at Wager Talk, and I have some big plays going tomorrow with English Premier Soccer and UFC as well. So I do have a coupon code available at the website. We can show that later on in the show. But I like the over here in this game. And it's not my biggest play of the weekend, but it's just a more of a bet numbers, not teams type of play here, Jeff. And if you look at the board right now, we're taking a look at it together. They've certainly tried to make their adjustments at least today. Yesterday we saw a number get bet up all the way to 48, and I waited till it got as high as it could, and then it went way under. So sharp money and the money moves, like you talk with me about it in week one. It's usually pretty accurate in the CFL, but last night it still didn't hold true because that number could have been real low and it still didn't go over.
We watched it on the NFL side last night as well. Opening week, first weekend, Washington came into New England. Washington opened up as a 2-point favorite, and at kickoff, the Patriots were 1.5-point favorites, and the sharper side won, and the Patriots ended up winning by 8, I think it was. So last night, the Patriots traveled to Philly. Patriots opened up at 2. Philly closed at -1.5.
Yeah.
And leading up a half hour to kickoff, all of a sudden you hear the whole first string defensive line's not playing for Philly. Then the quarterback, Jalen Hurts, is not playing with a stomach injury. And then the Patriots go and win 35-0.
They dominated. They absolutely dominated that game.
So, and social media and Twitter, the whole world's on Philly saying they're on the sharp side. And of course, we know, listen, I say a lot of times here at ECSI, right side, wrong result. That's all. Right. And it happens in baseball, football, whatever it is. We gave out Philly for some pizza and beer money. We took the MLB off, and I says, hey, this is the sharper side. This is what I'm hearing. And I said, put some pizza and beer money on. So let's just say it was Elios and Peels, and it wasn't,
It happens. Well, that just goes to show that sometimes where the move is going might not always be the way it is. But when you said that to me in week one, I knew that you and I were going to have some fun on this show because it's so true. I mean, Yanni the Greek, who works at Wager Talk, does lots of stuff with the UFC as well. He is the biggest advocate of closing line value. I mean, he will shove it down your throat on every video he does, but it's so important to him because if you've ever seen the bets that he makes, I mean, this guy makes like 20 wagers a day. So everything that he does is in order for him to get the best possible number. And if that's not the case, he's probably not going to bet it. You look at some of these games for this weekend that have had constant movement. It definitely goes to show that you have to be watching. And good news is, Jeff, last week you and I barely even had numbers out across lots of shops. But it looks like for at least tomorrow we have several places showing the game. So it's definitely good to finally not be waiting for all these widely available numbers. Frustrating on my standpoint for sure.
And it was funny. I was trying to bring up the Don Best as well, but I'm going to use both of those. We're going to leave the wager talk up there. For tomorrow, Winnipeg at Toronto. I'm showing Pinnacle opened up at 3. And actually, there's a lot of 3.5s across the Vegas Strip. Your under-over opened at 45.5, over -108. And it's right now at 45.5. I see a over -111. And then Ottawa at Saskatchewan, I'm seeing an open number of 10 and a hook. Saskatchewan with an under-over of 46.5, over -109, and it's sticking at 46.5 as well. Here at Wager Talk, they're showing it. DraftKings has moved it to 11. Thoughts on Saturday, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, let's take a look at the Winnipeg game for just a quick second, but I'll give it a play I really like on the Ottawa game. And what's interesting about the Argos, like I said, they're playing back-to-back weeks, and Don Buster that works at Sports Memo, he does CFL quite a bit. He's from Canada, just like me. And some people asked him what makes him have so much success in the CFL, and the answer he gave is that there's 9 teams. He said, if all these NFL sharp handicappers only had 9 teams to deal with, maybe they would do, the same results or have the same success. And so I love these back-to-backs. Throughout all the years I've been doing this professionally, I've loved these in the CFL because you can either, one, of course, decide to take the team looking for revenge or continue to back that team that won. And the movement here in this one has just been a little bit mind-boggling. I mean, you look at it. I mean, Toronto's getting some receivers healthy. Winnipeg, they're relatively healthy. They're throwing the ball well. They have a really solid defense. Zach Collaros went 32 for 40, passed 80%, 2 touchdowns. But most importantly, even when the rushing game isn't going well, they're spreading their offense out, and that's what I like and I wanted to touch on. We saw this is for Winnipeg. We saw Lawler with 99 yards, Dembski with 68. We saw, Wolotarski with 45, Rashid Bailey with 57 yards. I mean, I like teams that don't just have one or two guys getting all the action, especially in the CFL with a pass-heavy league. I like teams that have many options. And for me, when I look at a team playing a back-to-back against the same team, it's hard for that Argos team to go to the film room and say, all right, what are we going to do differently this week to stop them when they have that many options? And their running game wasn't even that good this week or last week. And so this week we've seen Nick Arbuckle taking over at quarterback. He's healthier now. The funny thing is, though, let's look at this. McLeod Bethel Thompson, he passes 10 for 20, 50%. So they said, all right, let's get him out of there. Let's throw in Nick Arbuckle. This guy goes 10 for 19. Jeff, you and I could have done better than these two guys last weekend. He has 96 yards and 1 interception. Longest throw was 16 yards. So, I mean, we can all read between the lines here, but how are we getting a bounce back effort here? And what I thought wasn't even the best game Winnipeg could have played. And yet this number has been bet down and we're getting -3.5 here with the Bombers. I mean, nothing tells me the Bombers. I mean, I think that they're healthier on the receiver position. Their defense hasn't been as great as I thought they would be. They've gone under, which I've liked. I've cashed under tickets on them both weeks. Last week I had the first half Winnipeg full game under, which I don't always double up on games, but I don't see much different. I think if you want to continue cashing tickets on this Toronto team, you start taking under. You can start taking unders with them, but maybe not this week because I don't like taking unders when teams are playing for the second straight week. It's just something I'm not sure. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff? It's just something that I don't like doing. I'm not really. Some might say that it's more of like you can check the film and maybe get better at defense, but for me, I think the offenses click more in the second game, which is why I kind of avoid playing unders. But look, I got Winnipeg on the money line. And I don't know what your thoughts are in doing that with football, but this is one of those things where I just said, look, they're going to win the ball game. I don't want to worry about a spread tomorrow night. I'm taking the money line. And if you don't like the price, sure, take the 3.5. I like that as well, or parlay it with a baseball game you like. But I think this team isn't going to show much difference than last week. And Toronto's an improved team, but they aren't better than, the reigning champs.
So it's funny you bring up some points that I absolutely love, okay? And so trying to break down this game, what I do here is basically this. They give you the opening line of 44.5, okay? So they're basically, and they're a 3.5 point favorite. So they're basically telling you initially they think the final score is going to be 24-20. That's what they're trying to tell you. Now, which way is the market going to take it? Are they going to take the 3.5, bump it up to 4? Does it go off the 3.5 and get to that key number 3? Okay. And you're talking here about money lines. I am one of those guys. Listen, I listen to Yanni all the time. I love Yanni to death. There's a lot of people in these lanes, though. If you tell them you're going to buy a half point, they look at you like you got 95 heads. You can't buy a half point. You can't do that. You talked about the closing line value, but you said something to me that I absolutely, truly believe. In football, basketball, baseball, there's money lines as well. If you truly believe the team's going to win, yeah, you're paying a higher price, but I use it as a just win, baby. Okay, I'm taking away the missed extra point. I'm taking away the hooks. Yeah, unfortunately, if they lose the game outright, well, so be it. That means they weren't going to cover the spread as well. So if I'm spending the extra juice and the points to just win, I'm okay with that. And as I like to tell everyone at ECSI and anyone that wants to listen, if the price is too high, just hit the risk button. That's all. Your normal risk, you're going to win a little less, profit a little less, but you're not risking as much. You're not going over your skis at a -175 or 180. I can't do that. Well, just hit the risk button. That's all you have to do.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it. Some people would look at us like we're nuts. And I think I'll make this very clear, though. I'm not going to come on here every week and give out a money line. I haven't done it yet. It's week 3. It's my first time doing it. And a lot of it has to do with potentially the fact that it is the second time these two teams are playing each other and that it is Toronto's opening week, home opener. But giving me this number, like you said, I don't want to worry about the field goal. I don't want to worry about the game finishing, 24-21. I just want to worry about Winnipeg coming out with the W next to their name and me getting the money in my client's account. So that's all that really matters to me. So, like you said, if you lose a few of those, you're laying, you're losing 1.6 units, laying minus 160 versus, minus 110 on the spread, something like that, of course. And in the NFL, you can look at a lot of data that points towards, for example, even at dogs, like a lot of the plus 3.5 dogs last year just won outright. So a lot of people were saying if you're taking a team at plus 3.5, you might as well take them to win if they're going to cover that. Or teams that are minus 3.5, you can always look at these numbers. And I'm not sure how much I want to do it right now with the CFL, with how the league has been with each team not really finding their identity. I just want them to win. And if you look at the prices there on the screen, there's the lowest you can get is minus 155. I'll tell you what, Jeff, I'll be a hell of a lot more comfortable if I left here knowing, hey, look, I told Jeff and his followers to take Winnipeg money line, and we can talk next week about them winning the game. And I don't care how much they win by. They could win by 15 or 14. I won't feel badly that I didn't give out the spread. I'll just be happy I got the win.
And I'll take this one step further. Okay. Well, let's just use the money line at 155. Okay. And the spread's 3.5 minus 110. If someone is queasy at the minus 155 and they try to get cute and buy the half point, so now they have it minus 3 minus 120 or 125. It lands on 3 and they push. We cash. So the difference of 3 points and buying the hook at 120 or 125 versus the 155 is 30 cents per 100. Okay. Right. So you've taken away the hook, you've taken away the 3, the 2, and the 1. But people just have a hard time seeing that. Oh, I was told a long time ago, I got to stick with that 110, 115. Anything over that is just long-term going to turn into less profit. But if you're willing to buy the half point to take it off the hook to 3, well, you really need to go a little further than that and say, if I believe in Winnipeg to win today, which we do, I'm willing to go the extra dollar. Yes,
exactly. And, I find myself, and I'm happy you feel the same way as me with this, because I find myself, thinking if I am so shocked by this spread, why don't I want to just play it? Why don't I want to just play it if I'm so shocked by the way that this is? But the intangibles of a first home opener, of the receivers getting healthier, of seeing Nick Arbuckle get his first start of the season, all of that kind of stuff just makes me want to say, let's just throw that out the window. Let's just win a ball game, and that's kind of the way I want to feel, especially going on the road. This year in the NFL, Jeff, those big boards, like the big, you can get this huge squares that print off like every team's schedule, like bad weeks for them, good weeks off a road trip, those type of school. You know what I'm talking about? So
yes,
for me, I this year in the CFL, I'm kind of doing that, except for just on my own, really trying to figure out which teams I'm trying to bet at home, on the road. Because on the road, my record hasn't been great so far with teams. At home, it's been pretty good, at least taking road favorites. Road dogs have been great so far. Obviously, the CFL, a lot of dogs so far. So, yeah, in summary, I'm just trying to take away the points and just go with the money line. But you know what's funny, and I say this quite a bit, I don't think it works for tomorrow, but there's a reason. I don't want to spend too much time on this game. I apologize, but for last week, I took the first half spread with Winnipeg, and I just kind of looked at it thinking that Toronto would kind of have some false sense of confidence based on what we saw from them over the, their first game or two. And the reason why, I just thought that they would be shocked by the skill level of Winnipeg. And, You're turning a -6.5, -7 spread into -3.5 or -2.5 even. And so all I really needed was then to win by a field goal or more. And then after the funny thing is I'm watching the game. I'm at the family cottage. I'm watching with my uncle, and he's not much of a gambler, but I always tell him about my bets. And he said, "So you're just not interested in anymore?" I'm like, "No, I'm still interested, but I don't care what happens now because the second half is starting." Like he saw how much more engaged I was in the first half. And then the point spread drama started in the second half, and I wasn't as worried anymore because I already came out on top. So sometimes the first half can be good.
And that's what we've done here in baseball the last 2 months, especially is we have gotten away from the full games, the back ends, the starting on second base in the 10th inning, and we've really honed in. And we found a softer market in the first fives the last 2 months. Unfortunately, the last 2 weeks with the run of the favorites, the trade deadline over, you can see the clear buyers versus sellers, and Vegas is really pushing us out and pricing us out even on those games. But as the market here in the same thing, I'm the same way as you, Andrew. Is if I can find an angle and an edge, and you can see here, hey, listen, I think Winnipeg's going to come out guns a blazing. Toronto here, home opener, maybe a little skittish, a little, trying to get their sea legs. And as long as Winnipeg wins by, a field goal or more, we're cashing. And the best part of our sides and our business is you feel so much more comfortable when you get the first half in, you get the first leg in, and you're a little more not on edge. Like you lose the first half, and if you lose the full game, now you're like, oh my God, now I'm chasing 2 units, and then in come the trolls.
But the worst part is, let's be honest, because we got to be honest here too. Sometimes you can have the first half -3.5, and it ends at a tie 14-14 game, and then they go ahead and win by a TD in the second half. It's funny too. Yesterday, obviously, I had the Elks +3.5 as a bet I really liked, and I'm sitting there after the game. And as gamblers, we're never satisfied, right? We only think about our losses or what could have been. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm just a little bit above 500 on the season. Needed that win yesterday. Gonna try and get a win tonight. Have a huge week 3, and I was like, why didn't I take a little bit of piece of the money line too? And I'm thinking to myself, if you loved that +3.5, why didn't you take? But then I thought to myself, Andrew, you got the win. You had the hook too, +3.5. You can't be angry at yourself for not being greedy. You know what I mean? I can't be greedy. I can't be mad at myself for not taking the money line if I cashed an easy +3.5. We always want more.
And that's how we're wired on our alert. On our alerts here, I always, for the most part, will do that, Andrew, is if we're on a dog and we're on the point spread side of it, I'll always add a note, hey, sprinkle a little pizza and beer money on the +175 side.
Nice.
We got them +3.5, 4. Listen, not everyone does it, but the point is that you're offering it to someone that feels the same way as you. Hey, I'm comfortable taking the +3.5 or 4. Hey, you know what? If I'm a dollar player, right? Hey, I can throw a quarter on a +175, 180. And if it loses and I win the other side, hey, I'm still netting $75. But hey, if they win outright, it's an extra 40, 45 that I just made.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all that really matters to us. So we're just trying to cash in, and again, sometimes you want to give out that money line, and sometimes you want to just stick with the spread. But as far as Ottawa goes and Saskatchewan, I'll keep it short and simple. This is one of those team total games. This is one of those watch and see from an Ottawa standpoint. Who the hell knows what we're going to get from them? But you can't tell me anything that'll make me think that we aren't going to see a bunch of points from the Saskatchewan Roughriders, because sure, Ottawa's defense has been not bad. It's actually been the best thing of them so far. But 11 points is a lot. I might lay that, but I'm more comfortable looking at their team total. And I was trying to look it up here before the show to try and find what the average number is. And I'll see if I can pull it up. But, I think that the thing is I like the spread as well. But even if somehow we get 2 touchdowns out of the Red Blacks, just I don't want to take that risk. I would rather just think to myself, let's just get to this certain amount of points. And it doesn't seem like one thing I like about this Riders team so far, Jeff, that doesn't really seem like they're going to take their foot off the gas pedal quite yet. So we see, total is at around 45.5, 46 and a half. So, we'll probably get like 27.5, 28 for a team total, something like that. So I'm looking at the Saskatchewan Roughriders because the Ottawa Red Blacks have just one win on the season, but it was just like I said, it was a poor offensive game for them. It was their defense that came up big plays. They had 3 interceptions. They had some stops on third down. And again, I'm not trying to take away credit from a team just because I was on the other side, but Edmonton just played a poor game. It wasn't as much Ottawa playing a strong game. So the point spread we're seeing here is rightfully so. This is just an example where I just want to take the other team out of the picture. So maybe I will end up on the point spread, but as for right now, I kind of want your viewers to take a look at this team total when it pops up at their book and say, hey, look, let's just cheer on this one team to get points.
And I was just trying to crunch the numbers in my head. They gave you a 46.5 under over. So basically, in my mind, with a 10.5, 11-point spread, I think you're spot on because I think they're saying initially, a 28-17 is basically where they're looking at maybe in this game. So they're probably going to give you, because most people will lean to Saskatchewan, they're probably going to give you that 28 and a hook team total under over where you're hoping that, you at least get to 30 or 31. Am I correct to assume that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's funny? You're reminding me of this. The week that they played the Elks, I thought to myself, why even take the Elks when you can take the team total under for the Red Blacks? And of course, I lost on the Elks. The Red Blacks win outright, and they don't cover their team total. So, I mean, we could say the exact same thing about this game, but again, I just don't really. I'm more confident with the Rough Riders continuing their success than kind of knowing what Ottawa is going to get. But how funny is that, though? Ottawa has won a game outright without covering their team total. That goes to show what they're really all about, because I don't know about you, but I think a lot of the times in the CFL, when teams win games, they're covering their team total.
No doubt about that. In closing, you're offering an amazing 3-day package here. What I want all the listeners, all the viewers, and people on social media to take full advantage of it. So the stage is yours. I want you to talk to them about the promo, what they will get, and where they can follow you on social media, Andrew.
Yeah, once again, thanks a lot for having me on, Jeff. It's always a blast here in week 3. Hoping for a huge week this week, my best week of the season so far. Code is PICKEM3, PICKEM3, to get 3 days for the price of 1. It's my favorite coupon code to give away leading into the weekends because it gives people the opportunity to not just get one play or one day. We've talked about it. It's about a long-term scale. But for those people that aren't familiar with me, they can just check out 3 days. I have a UFC best bet. I have a best bet in English Premier Soccer, and a few other small wagers as well in that. And CFL tomorrow, you guys can get my final plays. But, of course, I did just give you quite a few leans and spot plays here on this show. But tonight's play in the CFL is $35. So for $4 more, you'll get 3 days of action altogether. That should pretty much sell it on its own. But, looking forward to this weekend. We grind all week so that we can make some money, hopefully, on the weekends with the NFL. So, make sure you guys are checking out Jeff, of course, East Coast Sports Investors. I appreciate you for having me on, Jeff.
Not a problem. And let me just get this up here one more time for everyone here. You can follow Andrew, obviously, at Mcinnis Picks. We didn't talk about the Sports Mayflower. Right. Andrew, and at Andrew McGinnis. Andrew McGinnis at Wager Talk. It's Sports Mayflower and McGinnis Picks.
Yeah.
Catch them on Twitter. Reach out to him. He answers back real quick. I can attest to that. So again, another week in the books. It's amazing. It's already week 3. Before you know it, we'll be talking playoffs, Andrew.
Definitely.
Always exciting times here. I want to tell everyone, listen, if you're wagering today, always wager with your head, not your heart. And if you have a problem, just pick up that phone. There's help available. And always invest and wager amongst your means. If you're above your ski tips and cringing on every missed extra point or turnover, you might want to scale it back. So from myself, Jeff Dawson, and Andrew at Wager Talk, we wish you the best of luck, and we will see you at this time next week.